Chat, today Valve just made the most insane update in ever. Look, this is in a trade-up contract. This is in a trade-up contract. Why? Why is it red in a trade-up contract? Because you can trade it up to a knife. I am not joking. Look at this video, okay? This is insane. You can put 5 reds in a trade-up like this, and you can pull a knife. I am not joking. When I first saw this, I looked at my phone to make sure it wasn't April 1st, because this is insane.
Track 1. I'm supposed to get a Stat Track knife from either the Dreams and Nightmares collection, the Gamma collection, the Fever collection, or the Prisma collection. 3, 2, 1, boom! Oh my god! What?
This is actually ridiculous. I can't explain how ridiculous this is. Look at this. For example, this skin was $5 like an hour ago. So here, let's go to that skin now. I just want to go to everything and then go to the skin. Look at the skin on the Steam Marketplace. The skin went from $4 to $40, okay? And here's something that I want to point out, okay? I don't think you can game the system here, because the problem is that unless you got in really early, knives are already like gone. Or I mean, sorry, the reds are already gone. Because if we look here and we just go to the old filters and we search by covert, look at this. Basically, if we filter by lowest, the lowest covert now is $30. I can't zoom in on this. It's kind of annoying. Maybe I do it in browser here. Steam. Look. So the lowest covert is $30. That is insane. That is ridiculous. And I was going to sell off my my gloves and knives, but I realized that's kind of irrational, and I'll explain why in a second. But first, I want to show you why basically why what's it called? You can't game the system right now. So we'll go to, okay, why are the filters not working? This is so weird. Switch to old filters. Boom, there we go. Okay, so now we go to CS2. Okay, now we go covert, and look at this. $30. This is insane. All the coverts are so expensive, even the worst ones, which these are just kind of objectively the worst ones, but they used to be crazy expensive and crazy cheap. But now everybody is just buying them. And I already tried looking on like Skinport and third-party marketplaces. You cannot get these things. They are sold out, okay? And it honestly makes sense. The only way I thought of to gamify this a little bit while it's still fresh was to go to the pinks and find the cheapest pink and trade up to reds. But if you trade up 10 pinks to a red and then the red is $30, it still doesn't work great. You know what I mean? So it's not... We unfortunately cannot gamify the system as much as we would like, you know what I mean? But it is still ridiculous that they did this, you know what I mean? It's so insane to me that Valve would make a change like this, you know what I mean? And I feel like this just kills like knives, like their value. And so anyways, into our next talking point here. What I wanted to discuss is I think this is going to have like an interesting effect on the skins market, because basically I feel like knives will kind of become the new reds, because essentially reds were the highest you could trade up to, for example. So basically, I want to look at it this way. All right, we can look at the 5/7 Angry Mob, which this red was $4. It was the worst in its collection. But then we can also go and look up the Emperor, which is in the CS2. We can look up the Emperor, which is in the same collection, by the way, mind you, as the I believe it is. So the Emperor was in the same boat as the 5/7 Angry Mob, right? But the Emperor was substantially more expensive. Why? Or not substantially. So I guess if we look in the conditions here, you can see this is like $4 to $8 all around. I don't know why the factory new is so expensive. It's probably just because Chinese pumping numbers. But you can see here, these are substantially more expensive, you know? We see like 80, 85 bucks, you know what I mean? And the reason why is because this skin is just better. Everybody likes the Emperor better than the 5/7 Angry Mob, you know what I mean? So let me explain what I think that's going to mean for knives. I think that means that we're going to have not cheap, but expensive-ish knives, you know what I mean? I feel like the Marble Fade, for example, the Ursus Marble Fade in this pattern will probably be around 200 bucks, which is going to be our new expensive for knives. Even though this was formerly like $500, now it's not going to be like, you know, insane. And same here, you know, you can see the difference between the prices of the reds, but it is just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It is just insane. And I literally can't explain like how big of a deal this update is. It is ridiculous. You know what I mean? But so, anyways, back to my point. The For example, knives like the Damascus steel, I feel like are gonna replace like guns, for example, like the Angry Mob. It's gonna be really cheap. You might be able to get this thing for like $20. You know what I mean? The Damascus steel Navaja. However, for like a Talon, let's find a Fade or something. It's for like a Talon Tiger Tooth. I still feel like it's gonna be expensive. It's just not gonna be as expensive. You know what I mean? I feel like it'll be like 10 times the value. So it might be like, that's rough. These might end up in like the $200 to $300 range. But the point I'm trying to make is that the nice knives are gonna stay kind of expensive, but they're still gonna get a lot cheaper. But the dumb knives, the bad knives, are gonna get exponentially cheaper. You know what I mean? And I guess it's the same thing. So I wanted to pull up this collection. This is actually why I was pulling it up. But if we pull up the Prisma 2 collection, it's just not loading on that page. I don't know why. But yeah, so okay, let's go to Prisma. Where is it? Where's the one I'm looking for? Okay, it's gonna be over here. Okay, so the Mac 10 heat treated, for example, is the Mac 10 Discotheque. Let's go to that collection. I think that's just Prisma collection CS2. Yeah, okay, no, so it's gonna be Prisma 2. But okay, so now the point I'm trying to make with this is that there's skins like the Player 2, you know what I mean? The Player 2 is, gonna be less expensive now. Like, or it's gonna be more expensive, is what I mean. I think this update is gonna kind of even out the reds and knives. I feel like they're gonna be equally as valuable. Because the problem is now you have to trade up to knives, which means that reds are going to get more extinct, which means reds are going to become more valuable, and it also means that people are going to be buying more reds to trade up. So anyways, that's what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? And honestly, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because I think it is a bad thing, just because at the moment I think everybody's going to perceive this as a bad thing. I even perceive it as a bad thing, because for example, my knife here, the Ursus Tiger Tooth, this thing is now worth half as much as it was. These are going to be worth half as much as they were. You know what I mean? And why is that? Actually, they already are. Sorry. I mean, they already are worth half as much as they were. You can see the price dip, They're going from like 300, 400 to like, 175. That's not good. But so it's bad for everybody that owns knives. You know what I mean? Right now, it is bad. But for the game, I feel like this will be objectively good. Okay, and here's why, is because I feel like now a lot more people are going to have access to knives and gloves, which on one hand is kind of sad because it makes knives and gloves not as rare, you know what I mean? You see somebody with like Ursus Tiger Tooth and you could be like, wow, that's $100 knife. That's kind of expensive, you know what I mean? And I feel like, honestly, I'm not being unreasonable when I say that like, okay, let me explain this. So recently in the knives world kind of here, we've had an explosion where a lot of these Doppler knives started going really expensive. And I believe Doppler knives, in my last video where I made covering knives, Doppler prices, there's no price data. That's insane. But the M9 Doppler was ranging from $2,000 to $4,000. And I feel like at this point, I am not being unreasonable by saying I think emeralds, rubies, and sapphires will be just that expensive. I feel like they will drop to $2,000 to $4,000. I feel like all knives are going to drop a lot. So what I'm trying to say is the rare knives that you're going to see are going to be like $2,000 to $4,000. Okay. And the ultra rare knives are going to still stay the same. You know what I mean? We've got case hardened blue gems. You know what I mean? But the point I'm trying to make is that all these knives that were once considered like crazy rare, I think it's funny that there's just no prices even listed anymore because they're just being so volatile. People are probably panic selling like crazy right now. Will knives lose all their value? Absolutely not. But it's gonna take a hit. it's going to take a hit. But that means that more people are going to be excited about skins because more people will have knives. You know what I mean? More people have access to the skins, which in my opinion, and this is maybe controversial, I feel like that's how it should be in a game. I feel like you should never have a game where it's like you have to pay $700 to have a knife. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of a barrier. But do I like this update? No. Can I understand how it's a good thing for Counter-Strike? Yes, I can understand that. But, I mean, it's ridiculous. And here is my theory, okay? And this is where this video is going to get interesting. Because my theory is, if you guys didn't know, Valve has released something new, right? Genesis Terminal. And this thing is, okay, I spelled it wrong. Genesis? Hello? Okay, I'm brain dead. We'll sort by like case or something. But the point I'm trying to make here, okay, is that if you know anything about the Genesis terminal, you would know that it doesn't have a knife in it. Here's the thing. I think that Valve is doing the trade up to knives to try to eliminate gambling from the game. You know what I mean? So that they can have more profits in other countries. Because here's the thing. If you open, for example, the Fever case right now, you are gambling to get a knife. I feel like Valve would probably pass more like regulations. You know what I mean? Their regulations, they would not be regulated as heavily because they could just argue, well, if you get a red out of a case or something, you can trade that up to a knife. It's not like a strictly gambling thing anymore. It's like you can technically just get a knife no matter what. You know what I mean? And it's not like the only way to get it is gambling. And Genesis terminals, like I was just talking about, only have can I find one on here? Do they not count as maybe they're going to be an other. I don't know what they're going to be classified as. But Genesis terminals only have reds, which means that maybe Valve is trying to make it so that you get the red out of the Genesis terminal and you trade it up to a knife. That's the only thing I can imagine. You know what I mean? So anyways, this video has been insane, and I'm sure the following days will be even crazier. Just seeing this next week and how skins react is going to be mind-numbing. I don't even know how this is going to work. It blows my mind that Valve even did this in the first place. It's going to either make cases skyrocket or tank, because on one hand, knives aren't as valuable, but on the other hand, reds are going to be more valuable, so maybe more people will open cases. Maybe it will even out. Maybe it will stay the exact same. But whatever happens, man, I'm just excited. All right, chat, I didn't feel right leaving you guys without a trade-up contract, so here we go. So we have a really good knife collection, which we could hit here. This is from the Chroma 2. So the Chroma 2 knives, right? These are going to be really nice if we pull something good. If we pull like a gut knife or flip knife, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm mainly just doing this for the love of the game. You know what I mean? I don't really care. But I kind of just want to do it before it's too expensive, and, you know, I don't really have the opportunity to. So I'm kind of excited, you know what I mean? We could get some insane stuff. We could also get some not so insane stuff. But either way, I'm doing it for the love of the game, bro. I can't believe this is in the game. The only bad thing is we do have a very small chance to get something out of the Prisma collection. And the Prisma collection isn't bad, you know what I mean? The Prisma collection isn't bad, but it's not like good, you know what I mean? It's just not like, if we pull something from it, it's like we could either get absolutely screwed or we could get something decent, you know what I mean? Like, for example, you know, we have a Navaja. Stilettos are pretty good. I would be happy with Stiletto. I'd be happy with a Talon. I'd be happy with an Ursus. But if we get that Navaja, I'm gonna break my monitor. I'm just kidding. I don't really care. We're doing it for the love of the game. Let's see what we get. Come on. Ooh, okay, I'll take it. Okay, Bayonet, Damascus Steel. Ooh, that's a nice knife. I mean, it's not like insane, but like, we'll take it, man. I just can't believe this is a thing, dude. This is so stupid, bro. And I definitely lost money doing that. I don't care. I don't care. I told you I'm doing it for the love of the game, bro. I don't. Oh, this whole thing is just a mess, bro. Anyways, it is what it is. See, if you're looking to buy or sell any skins, please use my code in the description. It's Skinport, and you know, you can do it cheaper than the Steam Marketplace always. You know what I mean? Thanks so much for watching. 2v2 Wingman tournament at 200 members in my Discord. $50 prize. Join, win yourself a skin, And yeah, subscribe if you think Valve should revert this update.